Engage. This is day 3 of the RPD a Day Challenge for 2018, August. Yeah. I thought I would engage you with a different view of my talking head. This is a nice little shady spot as I sit here between jobs, waiting for at least an hour before I go and check on my next job for the day. And I don't know what the first thought that comes to mind when, hey, going on, Tim, when I see the word engage. We want to occupy, we want to interest people, we want to make our efforts engaging, we want them to buy into whatever it is we're trying to express. And some aspects of role-playing games are easier to buy into than others. Much easier, going on, Lee, much easier to just leap into combat because everybody's in active mode at that point, and you don't need a lot of thinking, and you don't have to do a lot of extra stretch, because there are a lot of people who are light on the role-play aspect of role-playing games, and some will openly acknowledge this and others will not openly acknowledge this. They just kind of hiff and hoff back and forth a little bit on that subject. Now, as you can see, my picture's a little shaky. That's because I don't have a professional studio. I have a cheap cell phone that I'm holding in my hand. You might hear a slight drum. That's because it's not audio problem. That's because I have a fan next to me, which is the only thing I have for air conditioning in this thing. Although today is actually a very beautiful day here, especially in the shade. So when I talk to people about engaging them at the table, I want to try to do things that's going to both catch their attention and be entertaining, in my opinion. Then I also want to engage or occupy them while we're at the table. I try to avoid having too much disparity when it comes to time allotment. That is a technique that has to be practiced and has to be learned to be managed as part of that resource management style of play. You know, if we split a party, what's the optimum amount of time to allow for each group to proceed in whatever activities they're doing? Because certain activities don't lend itself to easy breakaways like others do. So do we risk disengaging part of our table because we're spending too much time engaging the other half? We're occupying them, we're entertaining them, we're trying to interest them in whatever it is we're doing. And that's part of the concept of engage, in my opinion, of course. It can be hard to do in a lot of aspects. We're going to sit there and we're going to tell a story, or we're going to tell pieces of a story. Part of a puzzle in the aspect, because we don't want to give everything away, and we want them to buy into the story. We want their players to engage in it themselves, and it becomes a collaborative storytelling effort at that point. We are giving part of the story in hopes that our players are going to give us back and give themselves the other part of the story. Thus, our story might adapt and go and turn to a different path than what we initially set down and expected to do. Another thing from the prospect of the hobby is I like to do unexpected things, keep players engaged. Yeah, there's nothing like a deafening silence when everybody starts looking at each other going, did we miss something? Or is something about to happen, right? It can be a dramatic silence too. Another concept that comes to mind when I first think of the term engage is to engage other players, or not other players, but new players. When we go out, and whether it's, it's odd. I find that interesting. I made some commentary on this channel some time back about this, that I can go to some pretty off-the-wall places and listen and suddenly discover that there are fellow gamers at the next table or standing behind the counter. I once stopped and got lunch one day with the wife, and we were at I think it was Arby's, and one of their clerks, one of the people behind the counter, was on break or off work, and he was standing just off to the side of the door, and he had one of them earphones in his head, and he's, telling the players, let's do, oh yeah. And he was on the phone talking to somebody, And he was referring to terms that immediately brought me to mind that they were talking about some sort of role-playing game. And I thought, wow, you know. And then in another place, I listened to two people having a debate over something that had happened in a campaign that they were involved with on the previous night's gameplay. And I thought, wow, you know, there's strange people in strange places that I never expected to hear play. It's just like me, you know. I mean, we're all players. We're all gamers to some degree. And let's be honest, I don't look like the typical gamer to a lot of people. Somehow or another, I don't have that aura that some people seem to think attaches to. So when I start talking about the subject of our hobby, and people will look at me like either I'm out of my marbles, or somebody will go, you know, I always wanted to play that, where I always wondered what it would be like. And it was an opportunity to engage them in this hobby that we share, right? Potentially bringing in somebody new to the hobby. Yeah, right? How often? I mean, I don't wear the old t-shirts as much as I have a few in my closet, and I'll do videos every now and then with one on. I don't have as many as I used to, because as I've gotten fatter, it's harder to get them in my size that are comfortable. And my mother used to make some for me, but that was many years ago. And she's gone, so that's no longer an option. And so I don't advertise physically, you know. I don't walk around with the stuff. And then there's a lot of people who, you know, it's like Star Wars. You can have Star Wars fans everywhere, and yet they're not gaming Star Wars, right? They're not that role-playing gamer. They're just a Star Wars fan. It's another element or a different breed of fan, right? Because we go to even crazier depths than what you would just being in an interest of the franchise itself. So the fact I could be sitting in a queue at a hospital and start talking to somebody who made a reference to something, or I made a reference that got their attention, and become engaged in this discussion on some element of our hobby is a great thing. And where we find them is always interesting and surprising. So it's, as ambassadors in some aspect of our hobby, it's to our advantage to go and encourage them to become engaged as well. Yeah, you know, and I'm not one of them guys. I can't imagine. You give me a half a second and I will talk your ears off. And I will, if I can't engage you, I will keep fishing until I find something that trips your trigger. And the fact that I am so deep into the hobby and my mindset, and I bring this stuff out, it amazes me sometimes just who's interested and who's not. And I always try to encourage new people. And I tell them, I said, you can go online and get stuff for free. You can find players everywhere. And if the opportunity presents itself here, come to my table and we'll play, right? How often, you know, in your lifetime do you invite entire utter strangers to your home other than under circumstances of this nature, right? We're going to engage these people in a different way, in an interesting way. Now, perhaps my view on this term is different from everybody else, and that's kind of the point of this. I think I mentioned that in the unique video the other day, that it's our collective experiences and our collective knowledge and our collective passions that vary from each individual that makes each of us unique in this hobby, and the ability through social media and events such as RPG A Day Challenge to share that with everybody else. It makes it a good thing, right? You know, yeah, I saw that, and sometimes they pop on and then sometimes they pop off. There we go. See if I can get that to work there. It says it's adding. We'll see if my phone's capable of handling. Keep saying adding. Where's it going? It's adding. Well, it's trying to add anyway.
Hey, Rick. Yeah.
Going on, Tim. Right on. I'm glad to see this thing works.
I've never done this before, so I figured I'd give it a shot.
Well, that would have been better for yesterday or the first, right? A first thing. But hey, that's how this stuff works. Yeah, engaging people. I mean, isn't that part of what we do? Is we want to be ambassadors, especially the older we get, to encourage other people to join. How back in the day, how else did you get players if you didn't communicate with people, right? I didn't have social media when I was in my 20s, so.
I mean, I remember posting like flyers at like the local grocery store to find players. So.
Yeah. The common denominator there was if you had a local bookstore, they often had a bulletin board, and you could put a little notation saying, "This is what I like to play. This is the time I'm available," and hope somebody would pick it up and things would work out. I think I used ads in a couple of the Polyhedron magazine and in Dungeon magazine at least once. It's for the same effort, but that's throwing a really hole-filled net trying to catch some local fish, right?
I mean, I'm so old. I remember going to like Walden Books and just like rubbing elbows with people, like, "Hey, you feel like playing this game that you're looking at right now?" And it was always awkward as hell because like people don't expect you to invite them to come to your house and play games. But yeah, I did that a few times.
Well, no, and I think you said earlier, right, about how a lot of players tend to be shy about sharing because they don't want to be seen off or strange by the normal people in their lives or around them, so they keep it in the closet. It's like coworkers. I've had plenty of jobs where it just floored somebody that they discovered. Well, what do you mean you're in the D&D? You're one of them? Okay. What do you mean one of them? Right? Yeah. I suppose. Usually the giveaway was I was always lugging books with me wherever I went.
Well, for a while,
book or two.
For a while there, I'd bring books into work, like if there was downtime or if that was other people would bring stuff to do, and I'd bring a book, and they'd always be like, it'd either be like they would just look and judge like silently, or they would like engage, like, "What on earth are you reading?" or "Why are you writing numbers on paper? Are you doing homework?"
Yeah.
Like, no, this is my hobby. I enjoy this,
I've noticed that in my experience that sometimes, and we're to that engaging other people, I'd bring stuff along and they'd look at me sideways, or they look at it and they'd either be hesitant to ask because a lot of people don't want to butt in, they don't want to get that level. And some people say it's too much information, but I'm the guy that turns around and says, "Hey, you ever played this? Right? Come on, back in high school, you were one. Come on, you did." "Oh no, I always had a friend who did." Everybody had a friend who did, or maybe had a friend who did. So yeah, it's one of those things that we do to engage other people, to bring other people interest in our hobby, right? And with the social media, of course, that's changed things a lot, both good and bad. So it's why I don't like it when I see other people being a troll. So I called it a snert back in the 80s. That's what it was called, was being a snert. So different terms.
I've never heard that term. I thought that was cool when you brought it up the other day. Actually, the main reason that I joined the call was like, okay, so it's engage, right? So how about I engage these people that I interact with mostly through text? I'm like, I should get my face and voice out there. What the heck? Might as well try it.
Exactly, right. And here we are. We got the video response channel, and we got activities on Brigade and 100 other channels. That's something that came up in a different channel a couple 6 months or 3 or 4 months ago. Things go up and down, right? Interest levels on the channel can vary, and if you got a smaller pool of people, less conversation goes on. And one person who was moderating it was concerned that maybe is it good to have to belong to a channel that you don't engage in. So if you signed up for 100 different channels and you never participate in them, is it a fair assessment, or should you disengage from them? Or as the moderator, should you kick these people off? And I think the conversation got a little bit, I don't want to say twisted, but we talked about it. And I was of the opinion that, well, I don't like to join things I'm not going to be involved in, but then there's that supporting other people kind of thing. I will subscribe to a Facebook channel or a YouTube channel to be supportive, and I may not. I'll watch a video now and then when I got time, and they may not. And sometimes something will, get my interest going or engage me, and then I'll participate. But a lot of times it's about just support, that silent support, because you never know when you're going to crop up and
Well, I mean,
so,
I guess I kind of do that too. I mean, there's only so much video that I can watch in a given day, especially since I work so much.
yeah.
But I've been really trying to like kind of carve more time out for it, especially this month. Mainly because it's just so engaging. Again, we'll use that term.
Yeah.
Everybody's unique, open-ended take on these prompts is it's just fun. It's like you don't know what to expect when you open the video because like how are they going to take like first or engage or unique?
Yeah.
How are they going to spin off from that idea and do their own thing with it? So it's been a lot of fun this year.
I've also noticed that because for the different format this year as opposed to the last 2 years. This is my third year. So the last 2 years, the first year I was really excited. The second year it just felt like I was excited to do it, but a lot of the questions just felt like deja vu. We're doing the same thing, a different version of the same thing. So when the guys came up for this aspect for this one this year, I've noticed that a lot more people are involved. They've engaged more. Different people that didn't engage last year, and some more face-worthy people, people who are out there with a little bit more following that are actually investing time in this different challenge, right? And how every individual has a different view of that key term, that key word.
Yeah, it's been really cool this year. I've been trying to keep up at least on all the English videos. I've been seeing lots of German, Spanish, French. I speak like un poco Spanish, a little bit of Espanol, but that's it. So it's been fun to try to kind of show off some of these new channels, people that are just stepping up for the first time to record. There's something about RPG a day.
Absolutely.
I think the structure of it that maybe give someone who doesn't have a lot of confidence to step forward and try, hit that big, red button. Like I always talk about, hit that record button and give it a shot. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. That definitely will bring some people that are a lot more, I don't want to say timid, just reluctant. I don't know. I got nothing to say. I don't want to get involved. I don't want people to laugh at me, right? Like I said, I always believe to be as supportive as possible. If you have a disagreement with something that somebody's saying, be progressively, positive in your disagreement. I mean, engage in we're back to that term. Engage in a dialogue as to I don't like it that way. And then that's that, right? Or I would never do that, or I would never play. It's that absolute. I don't like this set of rules because, give a little bit of an example, or be willing to discuss the reason why you don't. Because I've done that, and then I've had other people come along and make my mind open up a minute and think, maybe if I approached it from a different perspective, I might enjoy that particular style, that particular game, or be open enough to at least give it some time.
Well, I mean, I think as role players, I think we're actually better at taking a different point of view. That's what we do with a character. We have a character that has probably different views than we do, and that can be eye-opening at times. It's like, or what I've found a few times is like I'll play a character. I'm like, you know what? This character actually has elements of myself that I don't bring to the light of day. Like it's in there, it's part of me. And sometimes playing a character will actually help me, I don't know, just learn more about myself, do some self-discovery, something deep like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've had that. I've had characters where I took back and then reflected back on stuff and thought, gee, this is a side of me that I was always either hiding or reluctant to engage in, or thought I would never do that. We're back to that absolute. In my own aspect, I limit myself. But by putting ourselves in a fictional set of shoes, we can exploit things we would never do, or we could never do. I absolutely know that I am terrified of heights. Last month, I got up on the roof, and we have a fairly low grade roof, to patch a leak around the fireplace chimney up there. And all I could think of down from the minute I got up that ladder was how I was going to fall off. I was so petrified. It was all I could do not to, to even get anything done. And I didn't do a good job. So I thought when I got back down, I told the wife, I think this is worth $100 to somebody else. to come
Well,
do that
I,
again.
I think you might have saw
But
it
it's
like a couple years ago. I was painting my house, and like I'm kind of a round guy. You can probably tell by my face here, you know.
yes.
I've been getting bigger and bigger as years go by. I'm trying to work on that. But so I'm a big round guy who's climbing on top of this like 2-story ladder, scraping paint off the side of my house. And there were a few times like I almost fell off, you know. But you know, my wife wasn't going to do it, so someone had to. So
Yeah.
yeah, then I got stuck doing
Well,
it.
from the role playing perspective, my characters will often be inclined to do that sort of stuff. I have no problem running along the edge of a cliff and swinging on a rope or scrambling up a, you know, I would, as a character, I would not have a problem with that. That is not, but my own vertigo still comes into play, right? Yeah, it's crazy, but it's a good thing. I mean, I look forward to seeing more of these through the entire month. It should be very entertaining, right? Sounds like you got a phone call going on there.
Yeah, I probably should go. I don't even know how to disconnect from
Yeah.
this, to be honest. So,
Just shut off.
all right, we'll talk to you
There you
later,
go.
Nick.
Take it easy, guys.
Okay, bye.